So we're going to start off by just, I'll explain a little bit about the precept, just in case, just to reinforce the idea. And the point is that to enable meditation to happen, to enable kind of the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, to sink in. One of the foundations of everything is the idea of living well, living with kindness, living with virtue, living with morality. It's the foundation of everything on the Buddhist path. And the more we can purify the idea of kindness and virtue and morality, the easier the meditation is going to be. One of my favorite suttas, I always say my favorite, but every sutta is my favorite, so it doesn't mean very much. But one of the suttas I really enjoy, and the reason I enjoy it is because it gives you a very clear idea of how meditation works. And this is known as the Chaitana Sutta. Anyone here speak Pali? Speak a little bit of Pali? Chaitana means will, volition, intention. And according to this sutta, meditation is an automatic process. Do you believe that? Do you think that's true? Is that how you feel? It's like automatic? You just sit back, wow, and it kind of goes by itself? Or is it kind of not so automatic? Sometimes automatic, sometimes not so automatic. It varies. I would be very impressed with you if you had automatic process every time. It's like a freight train going into deep meditation. That would be extraordinary. And what that would show, if that actually what is happening with you, it will show that you already have a very, very good conduct, because your conduct is what enables the meditation to happen. So what this sutta says, the sutta, by the way, if you don't know, is the word of the Buddha. It's one of the discussions of the Buddha. He teaches somebody. It's like a Dhamma talk, right? Dhamma talk, like these days you have a teacher giving a talk. On those days the Buddha gave a talk, and these are the teachings of the Buddha. These are the most important talks, the most important Buddhist talks in history. All other Buddhist talks refer back to the talks of the Buddha. These are the ones that really are fundamentally what everything points back to. And what the Buddha says in this beautiful sutta called the Chaitana Sutta, Chaitana means will and volition again, is essentially that the path of meditation is automatic. He says that you should not, he says that the process of meditation does not happen through willing, not to be done by an act of will. And that's kind of really interesting, isn't it? It's not to be done by an act of will. And the reason why it is so interesting is because almost everything we do in our lives, we will them, we intend them, we try, we put in effort, we make things happen. This is kind of what life is about. When you go to work, what you do, you make it happen, right? And you kind of concentrate and you focus on the job at hand, and you have to write that paper, or you have to, whatever it is, read something or report or whatever it is. You always use you apply your will, you apply your volition to make things happen. And this is why meditation is such a radical thing, because it goes in the opposite direction. You don't apply your will. In fact, you withdraw the will. And when you withdraw the will, that is when meditation happens. And the Buddha says, and this is kind of fascinating, he says that this process of meditation, he says, is dhammata. Dhammata means it is in accordance with nature. It is a natural process. You don't do it, it happens by itself. And if you try to make nature happen, nature doesn't happen. This is kind of what he says there. And so how then does meditation happen? If it is a natural process and you feel that actually it isn't working, well, what you have to do is you have to look at this sutta, and you have to go back to the very beginning, the very start of meditation. And what does the Buddha say at the very start of meditation? What he says that you have to have your sila, you have to have your morality, you have to have your kindness in place. And once that kindness is in place, and morality is there, only then does the process happen automatically. And this shows you how important kindness is on the Buddhist path, how absolutely fundamental it is. And will, once that is in place, it happens automatically. If it is not fully in place, it happens only partially. If someone is a real dodgy character, scallywag, then it doesn't happen at all. So any scallywags here? Dodgy character, not dodgy characters, no. I know many of you very well, and many of you are really, really, really good people, and I'm sure those I don't know are also good people, so I'm sure you are, you are all on the right track. But the problem with the Buddhist morality is that it's very profound and very hard to fulfill that. But the basic morality of Buddhism is known as the 5 precepts and the 8 precepts. And the 5 precepts are the things that ideally you keep in daily life. Yeah. You all know what the 5 precepts are. Anyone does not know? Again, I'm just checking one more time because just to make sure that everyone knows what they are. Okay, so knowing what they are is number 1. That's not enough. You also have to keep them. Yeah, so knowing what they are, and then you have to keep them as the second one. And I would really, I'm not going to ask if anyone is not keeping them, because that's a really unfair question. Yeah, you have to put up your hand in front of everyone, feeling a bit sheepish or whatever. I'm going to ask that question. But I would really recommend you very, very strongly to keep these 5 precepts in your daily life, because it is the foundation for everything in Buddhism. If you keep these things, then the foundation is kind of being laid, if you like, and being secured so that the actual meditation can start. So briefly, I've been asked to tell you what these precepts are, even if you know them already, so I will do that. I will follow orders from the higher commanders of this retreat. And let's see, that's better. Okay, so these precepts are the 5 precepts. The first one is not to kill any living beings. Yeah, Padmatipata Ratmani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from killing living beings. And this is a beautiful way of understanding that all beings in this world have feelings, and if you kill another living being, regardless of how small it is or how large it is, whatever, you are basically causing suffering for other living beings. So the idea is here that we want to actually, instead of causing suffering for the living beings in the world, what we want to do is cause happiness for living beings in the world. We want to aid other living beings to give them greater quality of life, not to reduce the quality of life. So during this retreat and during your daily life at any time, remember over not killing anything, even mosquitoes, whatever it might be. Mosquitoes are quite difficult not to kill, but even try that one. If you can do that, you're doing really, really well. Remember that mosquitoes are like little beings with feelings. They want to live. They're just kind of traveling around looking for food sometimes, and we happen to be the food that's the problem. So it's kind of that's the issue. And so you just have to, so you think of them like living beings who are actually looking for food rather than some irritating and evil animal who's just out to kind of torture us. Then you are on the right track. So you start off not killing any living beings, but then you take it one step further. And this is actually working okay, I think. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You take it one step further. Not only are you satisfied with not killing any living beings, but you start to have kindness towards all living beings. You treat them with kindness, we treat them with compassion, and we increase the quality of life for other people. By treating them in a good way, like someone offering me coffee and this hot drink for my throat. My throat is a little bit dodgy, getting better now, but this is like kindness. And it's sweet to receive kindness, and it's sweet to give kindness. It's a mutually beneficial thing that you find there. And so you treat beings with kindness in this way. And actually, we create a better world in this way. We get a sense of harmony with each other, a sense of working together, a sense of not being kind of opposed in all the various ways that we are opposed in this world. And something very beautiful happens inside of you when you treat other people with kindness. You start to feel good about yourself. You start to feel that you are worthy of respect. You get a sense of self-worth because you're treating others nicely. You don't get self-worth by being successful in the business world. You don't get self-worth by being wealthy. You don't get self-worth by having a high status or whatever it is. Self-worth comes from your kindness, your morality, the kind of person you are, how you treat others. That is where real self-worth and self-value comes from. People often ask me about, self-esteem and these kind of things. If you want that sense of self-esteem, that is where it arises, where it comes from. So this is kind of the idea of the first precept. The basic precept is not to kill, but actually we want to go beyond that. We want to treat other people with kindness as much as we possibly can. The second precept is about not stealing anything. I don't know if this possible. If it's possible to steal anything here, probably not. I don't think you don't look like a bunch of thieves. I think you're all right. And so not stealing, and this means in small ways and larger ways, in anything conceivable. And of course, the opposite of stealing is the idea of generosity, of giving and supporting. Again, the idea of kindness towards others. In fact, the idea of generosity is such an important part of the Buddhist teaching that it stands out like in its own separate category. And there's a large number of suttas where the Buddha explains how to be generous in the right way. That's how important it is. The Buddha talks about this in many, many different places. Maybe we can talk about this at some point during this retreat, because it is very, very important. Is anyone here who understands everything about generosity? No? Okay, no one understands everything about generosity. Okay, good. That means we have a chance to educate you a little bit more about that as well. So that is good. Third precept is about, depends on whether you're keeping the 5 or the 8, but if you keep the 5 precepts, it is not sexual misconduct, which means not abusing sexuality. That's really what it comes down to, treating people with kindness at all times. And if you keep the 8 precepts, it is actually refraining from sexuality, completely. And the opposite, what is it? You can see here I'm talking about the negative side and the positive side, right? Don't kill, have compassion. Don't steal, be generous. What is the opposite of sexual misconduct? What's the opposite of sexuality? Meditation. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Why is that? Why is it that sexuality and meditation are kind of opposites? And the answer is that sexuality really is about enjoying the 5 senses in the world, right? It's kind of the number one kind of sensual experience in the world for many people. And as long as we use the 5 senses and enjoy the 5 sense world, it means that our mind is going out into that world, attaching in that world, enjoying in that world. And as long as the mind goes out into the world, it cannot also stay within at the same time. Meditation is like staying within. Meditation is about the mind. It's about not going out into the world. And so we have this precept about sexual abstinence for the reason of kind of bringing the mind inside and not allowing the mind to go out into the world. So interesting here that these are 2 opposites, the peace of the mind and the abstention from all sexual activity. Then we have the 4th precept, which is about not lying. So in other words, telling the truth, being as truthful as possible, not deceiving anyone in the world, saying things as they are. Sometimes that can be difficult because sometimes the ego does not want to tell the truth. The ego wants to kind of protect itself. The ego kind of doesn't like other people to know about all our dodgy things that we have done. Did you do this? No, I didn't do it. It was me. Actually, it was you, but that's, if the ego doesn't want to admit to things. But remember, the reality is that everyone in the world sometimes does things that they're not proud of, because our conditioning is so strong that it's almost unavoidable that we do things that we are not, sometimes are a bit bad. Everyone does this. no one admits to it. Everyone does more than they admit to. So by being open about it, you are, in a sense, giving other people a feeling of relief, because then they know that they're not such evil people after all, because everyone is doing this. So it's almost an act of compassion to admit your own weaknesses. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Yes, I have weaknesses, we all have weaknesses, and it's okay to have weaknesses. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone makes mistakes. So we try to be as truthful as possible. The fifth precept is not taking any alcohol or drugs. Actually, I'm taking a few drugs now because of my cold. I hope that is allowable. Can I get special dispensation, Eileen? Yeah. So I just had a bottle of, someone gave me some ginseng. That was really cool, some kind of liquid ginseng. I had some ginseng beforehand, so maybe that's why now I'm kind of ready for this talk. Who was that person who gave me ginseng? I'm not sure. In there somewhere, okay. So we don't take any drugs and alcohol. And again, the opposite of this is really mindfulness, clarity of the mind, the ability to see things clearly here, not being deluded by things. It is delusional, especially alcohol, but many drugs also can lead to all kinds of delusions. So we want clarity of mind. So there's no wine, is that right? No wine here during the meal times? No? Okay, so it's kind of one of these super duper. No alcohol at all. Okay, cool. Okay, good. It's rare in the world for people not to drink alcohol. Alcohol is like a social lubricant for many people. It kind of what makes us feel relaxed very often, and all these kind of things. It's wonderful to have a group of people who can enjoy themselves without alcohol. Yay, us. We are, we are doing something really nice and wonderful here. That's great. The sixth precept, now we're going on to the eighth precept. This is for those of you who are keeping 8 precepts. The sixth one is about not eating after midday. And this is another way of abstaining from too much sensory indulgence, keeping life very simple, vikana bhojana. And if you are keeping 8 precepts, make sure you don't eat too much at lunch. Because sometimes people think, oh, I'm not going to have anything in the afternoon. So better eat heaps and heaps at lunch, and then sleep all afternoon, sleep to the Dhamma talk, and then they're going to wake up in the evening. And then don't eat too much. It's not dangerous. You'll be fine. I know that I remember a lady in Jhana Grove, and she told me that, oh, I'm not used to not eating in the evening. I find it really hard. I get really worried at lunchtime. I won't eat enough. Then I worry about it all afternoon, that I'm not going to have had enough to eat or whatever. And usually it becomes this kind of blockage, because we are. But actually, it is not usually a problem at all. We get used to it surprisingly quickly, not having anything to eat in the afternoon. So it's kind of one of these nice little renunciations where we focus more on the meditation practice and the suttas. The seventh precept is about not adorning yourself and not using entertainments. So we kind of try to be kind of plain. There's something very nice about not adorning ourselves and being plain, is that it takes away a little bit of the sense of self. We always try to kind of show our good side to the world, and now we can just relax. No need to show off to anyone. And that's kind of really cool, just to be able to relax. You can just be yourself. Very often we kind of put up a front or a face, or we pretend to be someone. Actually, now you can chill, which is wonderful. So I hope you have some nice and comfortable clothes. Nice and comfortable clothes, so you can kind of really relax into these things. It's not adorning yourself, not using any entertainment. And then the last one is to sleep on a simple bed. That's the most difficult one, because the beds are kind of given. So you sleep on whatever bed you have, and that's good enough for this retreat. So that's the precepts for you. So does that make sense to everyone? Anyone who thinks this is too demanding? Too much? Anyone thinks, well, I better, this is, maybe I should leave now before it's too late? Are you okay with that? Okay, that's wonderful. Just a second. this is a clock. This was when I was out in Singapore. It was given to me here. I can't remember this one. I use it all the time now. It's with me, travels with me. I use it all kind of things. It's really, really cool, really good. So. All right, so that's the idea of morality at the base of the whole spiritual path, and you want to try to purify that as much as you possibly can. I will be talking probably a lot about this during this retreat because it is such an incredibly important thing. And once you start to understand how important it is, it actually, you start to, everything in your life becomes a matter of morality and kindness. Almost everything you do, every time you have a thought, even every time you open your mouth, every time you do an action, you try to do it in the right way. It is incredibly foundational for the whole practice of the Buddhist path all the way here. But I thought now I will talk a little bit about meditation practice, just to give you some foundation on meditation. And so we have, and this will be my main meditation teaching. Now, of course, everything is about meditation in one way or another, but this is kind of the main instruction, if you like, and then we can talk more about as we go along. So there is a meditation in the morning at 6 a.m. It is optional. If you want to come for that one, it's great. Often morning time is often the best time to meditate. It is fairly nice and cool. It is often quite quiet. You have a good night's sleep, so you're well rested. And then coming down here to meditate together can be quite nice. And when we all meditate together, there's a certain energy in that. It brings everyone together. You kind of, it feels extra silent when many people come together and no one says anything. There's a certain power to that kind of silence, which can be nice. Depends how good a meditator you are. If you're a really super duper meditator, then meditating by yourself is wonderful. But there's a certain kind of, everyone gets pulled along a little bit for these meditations. So coming at 6 a.m. in the morning, I would recommend that if you feel up to it. If you need to sleep, of course, then you can sleep. So I intend to come for that meditation as well then. We'll see what happens. So what then do we do in meditation practice? Is anyone, people here beginners to meditation? No, everyone has done a little bit of meditation? Okay, good then, Hope you're not too super duper advanced, but you're just kind of middle way. So meditation is really about kind of learning how to be present, learning how to be aware, and learning how to enjoy that awareness. And there's three kind of factors that I often talk about for meditation to work. And one of those factors is the ability to relax. And I will talk about that. The second one is the mindfulness, the awareness that you have to have. And the third one is to enjoy what you're doing. It can mean having joy in meditation. So learning how to let go or relax is basically the same thing. Having mindfulness and enjoying. And these three things, if you get these three things right, then meditation usually happens. So what does this mean? How can we actually make sure that this happens in this way? And so let's start off with the idea of letting go, which here means really relaxation. If you're not relaxed, if you feel a bit tense or whatever, it is because you're not letting go properly. The mind is controlling the body, and because the mind is controlling the body, you feel tensions and all of these kind of things. So we're going to start off by learning how to let go, first of all, enjoying the meditation. And very often we can start off with just the posture, how to sit. And the main thing about the posture is not that it has to be any particular way. You don't have to sit in full lotus. You don't have to sit on the floor. You don't have to do anything in particular. The most important thing is that you are at ease, that you are relaxed, that you kind of enjoy, and you can sit there for half an hour or an hour. This is the most important thing. And it is a very important teaching. In fact, it is so important that this is pretty much the first teaching of the Buddha after his awakening. He says, monks, I will teach you the middle way, he calls it. And the two extremes in this case are, on the one hand, the torturing of the body, and on the other hand, the indulging of the body here. Now, the indulging of the body here, you don't have to worry too much about. We're not going to be indulging super duper much here. There's not much entertainment or anything happening. You have to listen to Dhamma talks and meditate. There's not much chance for indulging. A little bit of chance, but a little bit, not that much. So I said, don't worry too much about that side of things. What you should worry about is more the torturing side of torturing the body here, because that is very unpleasant, and it leads to being discouraged, and it leads to you eventually giving up on meditation and Buddhism. But it's true, we have to find something positive through our spiritual practice. That is the whole point of spiritual practice. The whole point is to add value to your life, to do something extra. And if it doesn't do that, it's kind of pointless. Right? So it's actually important that we add that value to our lives, an extra dimension of joy, happiness, meaning, peace, compassion, all of these kind of things. Then it becomes really powerful. And so don't make the mistake of torturing yourself. So sit comfortably on the chair, on the ground, whatever it might be, whatever works for you. And as you do that, you're already kind of on the right track. And then take a lot of time every time you sit down. Take the time to relax, take the time. We did a body sweeping meditation with Ajahn Brahmali at that conference. Did anyone go to the conference we had in Singapore just recently? So Ajahn Brahmali's beautiful body sweeping meditation. So something like that. Take Ajahn Brahmali's instructions, go through your body, really relax. I thought I don't get to hear Ajahn Brahmali very much, right? Because I'm kind of I'm usually somewhere else when he's somewhere else, so I don't know what he says, but that was actually really beautiful, that meditation that he went through. And it allows you to relax, to find the ease, slowly calming down, coming to a point where the body kind of starts to disappear. The body is no longer important. It's not giving you any grief, any problems, or anything like that. You are just enjoying being with yourself. That is kind of the point of this, the middle way, the body disappearing, the body being unimportant. This is really what it is about, because meditation is something for the mind. It's not really about the body at all there. So in this way, you gradually undo the knots inside, all the stresses and things, and allow things to kind of fade away in a beautiful way here. This is what this large part of meditation is about. You allow yourself to relax. You allow yourself to be at ease. To help you get an idea of what it means to really relax. So just to give you some kind of similes or some kind of ideas of how this works. One very simple idea of relaxation is like when you come back home after a long day at work or whatever it is that you have been doing, and you just want to relax. Well, what do? Well, maybe you lie down on your bed, right? Or kind of, wow. And you just kind of really enjoy it because you've been stressing out all day, and now you kind of finally can relax a bit. Or you sit down on your favorite chair, whatever it might be here. And so the question is then, what do you do when you come back home after a long day and you just want to relax like that? What do you do? Do you tell yourself, do this, think like that, do these things, relax, really, whatever? Do you kind of stress out when you're lying on the bed to de-stress? No, right? When you lie down after a long day on your bed, you sit down on your chair, you just close your eyes, and what you do is you just allow yourself to be, right? You allow the mind to kind of go by itself. You do the opposite of trying to do anything. Whenever we really relax after a long day of stress, we just allow the world to flow. And that is the critical idea here, to allow things to flow without hindrance, without trying, without judging right or wrong, or anything like that. And as you allow things to flow, the mind actually relaxes automatically. It's beautiful when that happens. You just allow things to go. And this is the idea of meditation. It's a bit like kind of this idea of lying down on your bed after a long day's work without falling asleep, and allowing the world to flow. And as you allow things to flow in this way. If you are ready, then gradually the mind will calm down all by itself. And the reason it will calm down is because you're no longer feeding the flow of thought. You're no longer feeding the thing. That it is the will, the desires inside. These are the things that feed the mind, the thinking mind. But by just being, sitting back and just observing, that flowing of the mind actually tends to calm down gradually. And then that is the stage number one: how to relax, how to let go, how to just enjoy being here. And if that means that you're going to fall asleep, so be it, right? If we hear someone snoring at the back, that is okay. I always like it when people snore, because it makes me feel, I have compassion for them, right? Oh, they're really enjoying themselves. They're just kind of really letting go. They're not really self-conscious, which is good. Being self-conscious is an incredible hassle. So if you're not self-conscious, that's great. And you're snoring in front of everyone. And and it doesn't last that long, and then you kind of wake up and you can okay, stop snoring again. So that's all right. So it's always like that. When you at the BSWA Dhamma Center in Perth, we have Friday night meditations, half an hour. There's usually or very often someone at the back who starts snoring during that meditation, and it's kind of cute in a way. I kind of like that, to be honest. So don't be self-conscious. Just do your own thing. Don't worry about what other people think, and do what you have to do, and then you will have maximum benefit from this retreat as a consequence. So this is number one, learning to relax, learning just to be at ease. Then there is sometimes a problem with that. And the problem with being at ease is that very often, because the mind is not ready, is that the mind will just think and think and think. And you think that you are just not feeding the mind. You think that you're not driving the mind with the will because you're just relaxing. But actually, very often we still are feeding the mind. Very often we still are driving the mind. And so we tend to think, even though we are trying to relax. And so the second factor here is the idea of mindfulness. The idea of mindfulness is actually, when it comes down to it, it stops the thinking mind in a very powerful way. Why? Because if you are mindful, if you are aware of what is going on, the mind doesn't really have much scope for thinking. So we want to encourage the mindfulness also. It's actually quite tricky. And the reason why this is tricky is because sometimes when we relax, we are not mindful. When you relax, the mind just goes over. And then when you're mindful, you're not really relaxed, because you're trying to be mindful. So it's like either you're relaxed or you're mindful. But the holy grail of meditation is to combine relaxation with mindfulness. That is what we're trying to do. And this is what you're looking for: relaxation and mindfulness coming together. And when those two things come together, that is when it becomes very powerful and very interesting. Relaxed, enjoyable mindfulness, just being aware of what is going on. That is what we're trying to achieve. But in the beginning, just focus on the relaxation, because that is the starting point. Then, as time goes by, we move on to the idea of mindfulness. So how can we be mindful there? And I will give you some standard advice on how to be mindful. And there's two things that we need to let go of to be able to be mindful there. And one of them is the past, and the other one is the future. This is where the mind usually goes. So how can we let go of the past and the future? And there is a beautiful sutta, beautiful verses by the Buddha, where he says, this is the 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑑ℎ𝑖𝑠𝑡 Sutta, the one auspicious night. Middle length sayings, the Buddha number 131, if you want to look it up. And it has this beautiful little verse about what the Buddha says, the past is already gone. The future has not arrived. So why worry about these things? Something is gone, hasn't arrived, and nothing to worry about. So then stay in the present, because the present, that's where the action is. He doesn't say that's where the action is, but that's kind of what it comes down to. That's where you see things. And so this is what we really want to try to achieve. Now, how do we deal with the past? And one of the most important ways of dealing with the past, very often why we hang on to the past, there's two reasons really. One is that something bad happened in the past. We feel bad about ourselves, or we feel someone else did something bad towards us. Yeah, that's one reason why we hold on to the past. And the other one is we think the past was wonderful. And so we kind of look back to the past and think, oh, the past was so good. Now I have to be in this miserable hotel in Batam and meditate all day before I could enjoy myself in Singapore and just kind of hang out in the in whatever, something like that. Just making up some random silliness, but you know what I mean. And so these are the two things, yeah? So how can we avoid? Let's start off with the idea that in the past, things were better. Yeah, now I'm really struggling, having some mental health problems, and I'm feeling a bit depressed and sad, or someone has died in my family and I sorrow for all of these kind of things. So how can we let go of the idea that the present isn't so great and the past was better? Well, remember, the most important thing in Buddhism, the thing that actually creates the future, yeah, the thing that actually improves our lives, yeah, that is how we live in the present. So if you are here now and you're part of this retreat, living in a good way, keeping precepts, doing meditation practice, you are doing all the things that will create a good future, right? And so you are actually right now, you are developing a good future. So whatever the past may have been, yeah, maybe it was good in a certain way, but because it wasn't really, you weren't doing it consciously, you weren't consciously creating a good future in the past. It was more like random. You just happened to have, things happened to be good because of whatever circumstances came together. But because you weren't conscious about what you were doing, because it wasn't really deliberate, things then started to go down again, and they became worse after a while. But now you are deliberately creating a good future. Now you're deliberately on the right path. Good people always have a good future, right? So now we're doing the right thing. You're in a far better space now than you were in the past, even if the past was better in a certain way, because now you are deliberately doing something about your life. So let go of that past. Whether it was good or bad is kind of irrelevant. Now you're actually on the right track. Now you're doing the things that really matter, that are really going to work out for you in the long run. That's a really positive way of thinking about life. It's, whatever the past was, actually, it is largely irrelevant. That is one aspect of the past. The other aspect of the past is the aspect of where you regret things. Yeah, maybe you did something towards someone, or someone did something towards you. How do we let go of that? Forgiveness. Yeah, always forgiveness is always the answer to these kind of things. And you have that beautiful saying, Ajahn Brahmali, how many times should you forgive? You should forgive always one more time. Yeah, so that means that there's no kind of getting out of the idea of forgiveness. Forgiveness is always right there. So how can we forgive them? Forgiveness sounds good in theory, but how can we actually do it? And this is one of those beautiful insights into Buddhism that makes you understand how forgiveness actually works. Sometimes we need to go beyond the slogans. Yeah, it's easy to have the slogan, forgive, but actually understanding how to do it is actually often a different matter. How can we forgive? And actually it is very simple. And the answer is and I will probably come back to this during this retreat as well, because it's a very important part of the idea of understanding how to develop the mind. And the answer is always, well, the reason that you forgive yourself and others is because whatever they have done, they were conditioned to do those things, and they didn't really have much choice. That is how we can forgive it. And so whenever anyone treats you in a bad way, remember, they're not doing this of their free will. They're not doing this because they want to be bad, or they want to be evil, or they want to annoy you, or they want to abuse you, or whatever. They're doing it because their conditioning is coming together in this moment in such a way that they have no choice. They have to act like that, right? And the moment you understand this, you understand that we are much more like robots than we are as free, independent, autonomous beings doing what we want to do. We are kind of driven by these programs. We're driven by the conditioning of the past. And this is what propels us and makes us do certain things. And you know, this is true. If I if I tell you to kind of never have a negative thought about anyone for the whole retreat, it's almost impossible. There's always going to be little negative thoughts creeping in there, unless you are a saint, unless you're an arahant. If you're an arahant, you don't need to be here anyway. So that's kind of a difficult thing. So this is how you think, yeah? And this is how you can come around to forgiveness, by coming to understand human nature. Human nature are like this. We don't know what we're doing. In fact, we all want to be kind, I think, deep down. Is there anyone here who does not want to be kind? That's a scary moment. You never know what's going to happen when you ask these questions. Some mass murderer raises their hand and they kind of then, whoa. But usually not many mass murderers come on retreats, right? Have you ever seen a mass murderer on retreat? They're not, yeah. How many mass murderers do you have in Singapore? Not so many anyway, yeah. They're kind of rare and hard to come by, fortunately. So, but I think we all understand. It's weird that maybe even the mass murderers actually understand. This is kind of the weird thing here. Deep down, we know that kindness is good. We know that when we are kind, we feel good about ourselves. We know that when we are not kind, we feel a bit rotten about ourselves, right? We know this already. And still, even though we know this, we are unable to be kind all the time. And so that is kind of a bit sad almost, right? Actually, I know you want to be kind, but you can't. So what do you do? Well, first of all, you forgive. The second thing you do is you have compassion for them. Yeah, because you know that actually they want to be different, but they can't be different because the conditioning is so powerful. And this is how you let go of the past. This is how you look at people with kindly eyes, yeah, and you treat them with compassion and all these good things in this way. Yeah. And then you turn that also to yourself, and you understand how conditioned you are, right? And sometimes this can be very hard because it feels like we are autonomous, we feel like we are independent, it feels like we have free will. I chose to be bad, and because I chose to be bad, I deserve kind of harshness and criticism. This is how it works. Yeah. So the more we have all this idea of free will, the more we have this idea that we are independent actors in the world, the more harshly we're going to criticize ourselves. And I think this is one of the great dangers of religions that teach the idea of free will, right? To teach the idea that we are independent actors. God gave us free will, and now you are fully responsible for your life. And I think this is sometimes leads to harshness in our societies. Yeah, this of course, so you see this around the world. You have harsh, punitive societies where you punish people who do bad things because they are responsible and they did things wrong. Yeah. But this is, from a Buddhist point of view, entirely wrong. Yeah. This is not how the world works. We're not independent, free beings doing kind of stuff out of our free will. We are conditioned beings. And because of that, we also deserve forgiveness. We also deserve compassion because we don't know what we're doing. We're also driven by these forces that are far greater than ourselves. Yeah, and then you start to have compassion for yourself. It's a beautiful thing when you do that. You do something bad and you think, wow, okay, that wasn't good. You don't fool yourself to say it was good. That's also stupid. But you realize you were driven by something. You have compassion for yourself. And the beautiful thing is that the moment you have compassion for yourself, instead of judging yourself, you gain a clarity about what you're doing. If you judge yourself, you lose clarity because straight away it's like you're angry with yourself or something. And anger is counterproductive to clarity. It's impossible to have a clear mind and understand what is going on and being angry at the same time. It's impossible. So, but if you are more gentle with yourself, actually, yeah, I don't need to be angry with myself. Mind clarity comes. What happened? Why did I do that? I don't really want to do this. So why did it happen if I don't want to do it? Okay, because of this and that condition. Because I looked at these people in the wrong way. I thought this person was bad, but actually, they don't really know what they're doing. So no need to get angry. Instead, just be cool. Have compassion instead. And once you understand the causal sequence, how things are built up out of cause and conditions in this way, then you can do something about it. And usually those causes and conditions are very simple, right? We get angry because we think someone else treated us badly. But actually, as I said before, that is the wrong way of thinking about other people. And so you start to think about people in a different way. And so this is a very useful way helpful way to help us forgive ourselves and also help forgive others. So have a gentleness towards yourself. Be kind towards yourself. You know, you're all, everyone here, guarantee you is a good person. You wouldn't be here if you were a bad person. What's the point of coming to a meditation retreat if you're a bad person? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And at the very, very least, you have good intentions, right? You have positive intentions. You're not coming to do anything bad. You're coming to do something good. Well done. Yeah, this is marvelous. This is how you feel about yourself. Yeah, you don't make a big ego out of it. You have this quiet, peaceful, nice feeling of feeling good about yourself. So this is how you build up this forgiveness. And take it one step further. Yeah, one of the dangers of a retreat like this, because we're so many people together, is that sometimes we can irritate each other a little bit. Does that happen? It would be a miracle if it didn't happen, right? Let's face it. And we always, because everyone is irritating. Everyone in this world is a little bit irritated because we see things in different ways and we clash, our perceptions clash a little bit. So everyone is irritating. So you are irritating, I am irritating. Well, it's kind of not so my own. Okay, so we're all irritating to some extent. And because of that, we need to be careful to have good look at each other in the right way. Yeah, and to kind of remember what really matters. And this idea, again, that everyone who comes here has good intentions, that everyone who comes here is here to develop themselves, to become a better person, to become more mindful, to become more aware, to live in a more conscious way, to have more meaning in their life, all of these things. Everyone here is worthy of respect. Everyone here has doing something very positive for themselves and for society. What a wonderful thing it is to have companions such as these. Yeah, and when you start to look at the people around you in this way, then little irritations which are bound to happen, they kind of just disappear. They become completely irrelevant because it's such a wonderful company to be around people like this. Then you are on the right track, and then you're going to have a really nice retreat with everyone here if you think like that. And so that is what I would recommend you. And then when you do that, we can forgive the past, let go of the past. The past kind of is irrelevant, doesn't matter. We are now here, we're doing this here to, now is when we are building up something positive. So what about the future? And I'm going to enjoy the present a little bit before I go into the future. Two drinks, 1 month, 2 drinks. It's like a kind of movie script, 1 month, 2 drinks. So what about the future? So the future, again, is a little bit like the past. And one of the things that I sometimes use as a little mantra in my own meditation is the mantra of I have no future. And it's a kind of a nice mantra because the normal way we think about the future is not really the interesting part of the future. When you are sitting down and you start thinking in your meditation and you start thinking about the future, what are the things that people normally think about? You think maybe about your work, you think about problems that you may have, you think about your personal life, you think about things that you may enjoy later on, maybe you think about the world of politics, or whatever kind of looks a bit scary, maybe you think about climate change. Oh no, climate change, we're all going to drown, everything is going to go downhill. Maybe you think about all of these refugees. There's so many problems in the world. That's what it seems like anyway. I don't know what is true, what is not, but it seems like there's so many problems and issues, both in our personal lives and in the life at large outside there. And so you notice that when you think about the future, it is about the world of the 5 senses, the world that we live in, the ordinary world, right? And when I think that I have no future, that is the world I'm thinking of. In that world, I have no future. That is not where my future lies, in that world. And the reason I think like that is because that world of the five senses, the world of the politics, the world of even of people living and dying and enjoyment and lack of enjoyment, all of that is so incredibly uncertain. We don't know where it's going to go. And if you tie your personal future up to that world, wow, you're going to have serious trouble there. Yeah, because it is so utterly and completely unreliable and uncertain what's going to happen in that world. So in that world, there isn't really any future. Not because it is necessarily bad. Maybe it is not bad. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's even good sometimes. That's not the point. The point is it's uncertain. It is unreliable. And because of that, if you tie your future to something that is so unreliable, yeah, it is a recipe for disaster, a recipe for problems, a recipe for all kinds of things. And we know anyway that things will, in some ways, they will go wrong in that world, right? Why? Because people will get sick, people will die, people will get old, there will be more wars in the future. This is just the nature of humanity. We are stupid. Yeah, everyone in this world seems to be so stupid, except for me, of course. I've got news for you, I'm stupid too, right? Everyone is stupid in this world. This is kind of this is a terrible thing about things. We don't really know what we're doing here. And I sometimes look at the world and I look at these leaders that we have, and I think some of them are pretty good and some of them are pretty terrible. And but then I think, well, they're probably just a bit like me, yeah. And if I was put in a position of leadership, good luck to the world, yeah. The world will probably go to the dogs straight away. I don't know what to do in a leadership position. I mean, these leaders are probably a bit like me, so no wonder things are going badly. And so anyway, my point is just that the world is really out of control. Nobody really knows what they're doing. We can't get our act together. We can't solve our problems in the world, right? It's just, it seems to be really kind of outside of our ability to do it. And sometimes we fumble along, we get some things right, we get some things wrong. Yeah. And so we have to give up a little bit on that world. I don't mean that we should not do our best. I don't mean we should not help out to kind of help, because we should have compassion for everyone. And for that reason, we should do what we can. But we should not place our kind of refuge, our confidence in that world going well, because if we do, we're going to get very, very, very disappointed. So how then do we create the future? And the answer is very simple. We can, as I said just before, the way we create the future is not by sorting out the world or sorting out our personal lives. The way we create our future is by how we live. Yeah, we're living with kindness, living with care, building up the inner qualities. And when you have powerful inner qualities within you, you are resilient. You are able to deal with all the external things in the world. You will notice that some people get easily depressed, whereas some people are always happy. I can tell you, Ajahn Brahmali, regardless of what happens in the world, always happy. It doesn't matter if the nuclear bombs come down and bomb everything. The Ajahn say, yeah, great. Okay, now more peace and kind of no less problems in the world. Yeah, because the nuclear bombs, well, you can't do anything about it anyway. He's not going to grieve. Yeah, even if 7.99 billion people die, he's going to say, okay. It happened. Okay, now let's carry on with meditation or whatever. That's kind of what he's going to say here. Because, not because he's callous and doesn't care, but when things happen, you can't do anything about it, you just carry on. And so it makes you really resilient if you build up the good qualities within. So your future depends really not on the world outside. It depends a little bit on the world outside, but only a little bit. What it depends far more on is the qualities in your heart. And if you have good qualities in your heart, you can deal with anything in the world. That is what I observe for myself. Not just that, not just the fact that you are dealing with this life better right now, but even more so, of course, after you die, after you pass away. Certainly your future at that time depends fully on how you live this life, right? So overall, the idea that your future depends not on what happens in the world, but the qualities that you develop is actually really such an important teaching in Buddhism. And it's such a freeing teaching. Yeah, it's such a beautiful idea. It is so beautiful because it means that you can put aside all the grief and the problems and the depression. There are so many mental issues now people having around the world, so much psychological problems, because the world is going bad. All of that we can bypass as Buddhists. Why? Because we think about the future in a different way. And so what this means, it means, first of all, that you are liberated from the future to a large extent in your daily living. But it also has a powerful effect on your meditation practice, because it means that when you meditate, there's no point in thinking about the things in the world, because that is not where your future is created anyway, as I have just been saying. Right? Why think about things that are actually irrelevant for your future? And then your mind withdraws from thinking about the world. And actually, what creates your future when you meditate is the quality of your mind right here and now. So if you are developing compassion and peace, kindness, all these good qualities now, that is where you are creating the future right in the present. And so that is what you think about. But there isn't that much to think about, right? Just be peaceful. What can you think? You think of, you don't come think peace, peace, peace. You don't think about that too much. You just are peaceful. And so you come back to these feelings, these natural expressions of the Buddhist path, the kindness, these kind of things. That is where the future is created. And so you stay with that instead. And this is a beautiful way of changing the whole outlook of what matters in life. And it's so obvious in many ways that this is true. And despite the fact that it is so obvious, almost no one lives like this, right? Everyone is concerned about fixing the world, even if the world may be utterly unfixable. But we can do things differently, and then we can change the trajectory of our life, and we can avoid the pitfalls that the vast majority of the humanity falls into all the time. And then we can even be peaceful in meditation. It's one of the beautiful things is to watch someone like Ajahn Brahm. Ajahn Brahm is one of my great heroes. He's the great meditation masters in the world. And he is like, his mind is always inclining towards meditation. Where other people think about what they're going to do tomorrow, Ajahn Brahm thinks about when can I get back to my cave as soon as possible so I can just chill in my cave. That's what he thinks about. When can I just sit down and watch my breath and bliss out? That's the only thing that he cares about, really. And that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Because that is what happens when you're spiritually developed, when you're really happy. That is kind of how things go. So how you know that you're spiritually advanced is if you don't, in the meditation, you don't think about all the things that you're going to do in the world. But when you are in the world, in your job or whatever, all you think about is you fantasize about meditation practice. That's how you know that you're really on the right track. So, and there's a lot of truth to that, and it's very interesting. So this is how you can let go of the future and the past in a little bit by thinking about these things in the right way, understanding what really matters, what really is important, and then coming into the present moment and being mindful. One of the things that was so interesting about this conference that we had just had over in Singapore just over the weekend, lots of nice speakers, by the way. I thought it was a really nice conference. So many good speakers. It was kind of, wow, this is really cool. Usually there are some dodgy speakers, but actually this conference, really good speakers all the way through. And I thought one of the things that was interesting was it started off by more practical applications of Buddhism, talking about mindful living and old age problems and these kind of things. And all of that was, I thought, all of that is very useful. But you will notice that the things that I have been talking about now, I've been talking about how to think about the future, how to let go of the past. Well, these things are actually the things that enable mindfulness to happen. And what are these things? Well, these things are really just right view. There are a particular way of thinking about the world, and a way of thinking about the world from Buddhist point of view, this is what we call right view. So right view is more foundational than mindfulness. Right view comes first, and the more right view you have, the more you look at the world in the right view, mindfulness happens as a consequence. And that is why it is so important to talk about right view, because the more right view you have, the more things just fall into place naturally as a consequence of that right view. And so this is one of the reasons why this retreat is going to be about developing perceptions, because developing perceptions is about attuning your mind to the idea of right view, getting more clarity about how to look at the world. This is what, so I'm just kind of putting together the pieces a little bit for you right away, so you can see what is going on here. Yeah, this is what right view is. Quite simple, actually. There's nothing too fancy about it. Yeah, and then that enables this whole process from there. But coming back to the idea of meditation again. So I've been talking about relaxing, yeah, just enjoying yourself. I've been talking about how to give rise to mindfulness. Yeah, and I said there's one third factor in meditation. That is the idea of enjoying being here. Yeah, having a sense of joy, happiness, and all of these kind of things. And this last factor of joy or happiness or enjoyment, in a way, is what makes the two first factors possible. Because if you enjoy being here, you're going to be naturally mindful, and you're also going to be able to relax at the same time. So if you want this combination, which is so hard to achieve, of relaxation and mindfulness coming together, if you want to achieve that, the best way to achieve that is to enjoy what you're doing right here. Yeah, if you find that your mind is inclining in a positive way, you have positive mind states, you will find joy and gladness in the mind, actually then the whole process starts to happen very, very powerfully here. So the question then is, how can we have that joy in our meditation here? Yeah, this becomes a very important part of it. And the first thing, as I mentioned before, is not to be negative about things, yeah, not to kind of fault find with the people around you. Guaranteed the people around you are going to be irritating. We know that from the very beginning. Guarantee you there's going to be irritations on this retreat. And then you have to use the perceptions, such as the one I mentioned before, about these are good people, they're trying to, they're trying their very best. What a wonderful company it is to be around people like this. And this particular way of thinking, it is called in the sutras, the Buddha has a word for this, it's called the Kalyanamitta Anusati. Yeah, Kalyanamitta is the kind of good spiritual friend. Anusati is like the recollection, yeah, the memory or the kind of bringing to mind the idea of the good spiritual friends. And so this is a very important way in which to give rise to joy. And it's actually quite a simple way. It is something that we all can do in our practice. So when it comes to the Kalyanamitta, yeah, we have the number 1 Kalyanamitta, we have the number 2, number 3, number 1 million. This is number 1 over here. The Buddha, number 1 Kalyanamitta, number 1 spiritual friend, right? So if you want to use the Buddha as a way of thinking about Kalyanamitta, it's one way of bringing the Buddha into the meditation. Yeah, the Buddha, this greatest spiritual genius in human history, this extraordinary master who was able to understand the human condition, this person who was able to perfect himself completely, person who taught humanity without any vested interest or anything in it for himself at all. This extraordinary person, but he was still a human being just like us. And this is what is so beautiful about the Buddha. This is one of the things I love about the Buddhist teaching. The Buddhist teaching is in many ways so different from any other religion. And one of the things that makes it different is that the core of our teaching is not a God, but another human being. To me, that is such a liberating thing, because the idea of God is kind of, who is this God anyway? Is he nice? Is he bad? Is he evil? What is this God? Can we talk to him? Can we not talk to him? Is he beyond the universe, or is he within the universe? It's kind of very hard to kind of pin down this God. Everyone seems to have different ideas of God. And I don't like to have faith in something I have no idea about. But the fact that we have another human being who has perfected their humanity, gotten rid of things that are really problematic, overcome suffering. And he says he has a teaching which overcomes suffering and achieves the highest happiness. There's something really grounding and really normal and really beautiful about that. Yeah. And so this is the Buddha, a human being who has done something extraordinary with his life. That is who the Buddha is. And that is kind of, I'm not sure what the right word is. It's cool, yeah, for lack of a better word. It's wonderful, it's marvelous, it's splendid. So this is the Buddha, the number one Kalanamitta. And if you can get a feeling for who the Buddha is, actually it is very, very useful. Because then you have a relationship with the Buddha, and having a relationship with the Buddha is very powerful. It can give rise to a lot of joy and happiness once you understand who the Buddha is. But it's not just the Buddha, yeah, there's also all these other people in Buddhist history here. And of course, part of an important part of Buddhism today is also the monastic Sangha. Yeah, we still have the monastic Sangha around. People like Ajahn Brahmali, people like many, many people within the Sangha who are still very inspiring and interesting people. Even in the present day, you find such people around. And what a wonderful thing it is to have such people, yeah, who dedicate their life to spiritual practice, who live in a good way, and who kind of also are examples to some extent of that idea of practicing the spiritual path and achieving the results on that path. Yes, that is also, it's like the Sangha Nusati, yeah, the recollection of the Sangha. It's a bit easier because the Sangha is kind of available. Yeah, some of these people who are practicing the good way. And then, of course, you have all the ordinary Kalyanamittas, yeah, not ordinary is the wrong word, yeah, all these wonderful people around you who are supporting you, the members in the Buddhist fellowship, all the larger, broadest Buddhist community who make this possible, the people who arrange this retreat, right? And all of us working together to make this possible. So what an amazing thing that is. What an extraordinary thing that we make something out of our lives, something more than just ordinary lives, something special, something meaningful, something that actually makes it worthwhile to be a human being on this planet. Instead of just following the old track, doing the same thing that everyone else does. No, we elevate ourselves up. We make ourselves into something more, right? What a marvelous thing that is. And we don't even get conceited about it, yeah. We're doing really well, and we don't even get conceited about it. What a wonderful thing that is. We are humble and good at the same time. That's the theory. That's kind of what we're trying to achieve. And so it's such a marvelous thing. And one of my favorite kind of little sayings in the suttas, and I've been saying this a lot recently, but I really love this little saying. And this is where the Buddha goes to visit the three kind of exemplars of the monks, and the three kind of really almost like the best monks in the history of the world, right? Not maybe very best, but very close. The Buddha goes to visit Anuruddha, Kimbala, and Nandiya. Yeah, this is in the, and he goes to them and he comes to them and they meet the Buddha, they take the Buddha's ball and robe, the Buddha sits down and the Buddha asks them, are you living in harmony? And that's already quite interesting, right? The first question he asks, are you living in harmony? Harmony is so important in our world. When we live in harmony, then the spiritual path really works. And I really recommend you, and Buddhist fellowship seems to be pretty harmonious these days. There have been some ups and downs in the Buddhist fellowship. I've been around for a long time, so I know a few of the ups and downs. But right now you're doing quite well, right? Which is good. And it's the nature of organizations to have problems like that. So there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But ideally, we want to live in harmony. Yeah, that's kind of what life really is about. And then, so he says, yes, we're living in harmony. And then the Buddha says, well, how are you living in harmony? Yeah, and actually says a bit more, says about like we're blending like milk and water and seeing each other with kindly eyes. And how are we living in harmony? Well, and then when Buddha says, he says that, well, when I look at my companions, Nandiya and Kimbala, I think how fortunate I am, how very fortunate I am to have companions such as these in the spiritual life. And that is such a powerful sentiment. Yeah, how fortunate I am to have companions such as these in the spiritual life. If we can think like that for everyone around us, how fortunate I am to have friends like, where is he? 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐡𝐦 is just down there. I know 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐡 for a long time. I know many of you for quite a long time. It's wonderful. And how fortunate we are, right, to have companions such as 𝐒𝐿𝐿, such as Hang Hong, and all of these people, all of us working together to make these things work out. How wonderful that is. And if you can think about all the people around you, all the people who are here, all the people who support in the spiritual life, actually how fortunate I am to have people like this. It is not a given that we should have people like this in our life. And it's actually very far from given. If you are born in certain countries, you're not even allowed to be a Buddhist, for goodness sake, right? Many places there is no Buddhism. Many times in the history of the world, there is no Buddhism available. Yeah, well, how fortunate we are to have these companions. How fortunate we are to have the Buddha. How fortunate we are to have people like Ajahn Brahmali in the world. Wow, actually, this is what really matters. Everything else is secondary. Then you are on the right track. Then guaranteed you're going to do really, really well in the meditation practice. If you think like that, the gladness and the joy will emerge out of that. And when it emerges out of that, then you come to this natural sequence where the meditation happens by itself. It becomes very beautiful, very easy, very stressless, very meaningful, the whole process of meditation as a consequence. And then Anuruddha says, and then Venerable Surya says to the Buddha, I think like this. Why don't I set aside what I want to do and instead do what these venerables want to do? Yeah, this is like the recipe for harmony in our society. Why don't I just forget about my own stupid wishes? Yeah, okay, I think everything should be like this. And of course, I know best. Right? Does anyone else here who doesn't know best? We all think we know best sometimes, right? This is the right way, you don't understand it. But if we can set aside, even if we know the best, and we can still set aside that best solution that we have and go with what the majority says, it's a recipe for harmony in the world. And in fact, the reason why this works, and this is something I learned from Ajahn Brahmali a long time ago. Ajahn Brahmali always said, actually, the decisions that we make sometimes are not the most important thing. What is more important than decisions is how we implement whatever decision that we decide on. Once you have decided something, you implement it well. And how is a decision well implemented? Well, one of the factors is harmony. Yeah, so you can see right there why harmony works. Harmony works because even if theoretically a particular choice is better than another, if there is no harmony, it destroys that potential of that choice because the implementation is already bad. But if you choose a worse choice, you choose a worse outcome, but you have harmony, actually the end result is better because you implement it in a better way. So this is a beautiful way of thinking about life. Yeah, set aside what I want to do. Let me go what these other people have to do. It takes a lot of insight into your own ego, letting go of your sense of self, right? And to do that. But once you start doing this, it becomes very, very beautiful and very powerful. And so this is what I would recommend you to do during this retreat. Yeah, think like this. Remember how fortunate you are. Remember the sense of gratitude, right? Wow, there's so many good things coming together in my life. Yeah, count your blessings, as the old saying go. Yeah, there's so many blessings in your life. Yeah, don't forget that. And it's so easy to take all the good things for granted and only remember the bad things. But actually, no, please don't do that. And as you remember the good things, then the gratitude comes out, the sense of being blessed, the sense of being, yeah, actually, I have all these wonderful opportunities that maybe the majority of humanity doesn't have at all. Let me make something out of that. And maybe I too can become a blessing for the world down the track if I practice in this way. So we bring up the joy, we bring up the happiness in this way, yeah, by thinking in the right way. And this is how to make the meditation happen. And the Buddha has then this beautiful sequence. And just like I mentioned before, from that gladness, then the whole sequence of meditation happens automatically, stage by stage. All you have to do is sit back, close your eyes, be the passenger on the train, and allow the train to kind of pull out from the station, yeah, and move onwards towards the next destination. And as you travel, yeah, from Singapore through Malaysia, the train goes up, creaking up into Thailand. The landscape gets more and more beautiful as you travel along, yeah. This is one of the few trains in the world where the landscape is improving with time, all the time, yeah. Most trains, you kind of, landscape is good, landscape is bad, landscape is good, it's kind of a bit random. This train, landscape always improving, always getting better, always more beautiful, the colors more bright, the sunshine more sparkling, the water more clear, everything is getting better as we move along. You want to come on this ride then? Yeah. No choice, you're here, you're going to come on this ride whether you want to or not. So that's good. So this is how the Buddha teaches this. There are other ways of also giving rise to these kind of joys in meditation. And another way, another simple way, is to remember some of the good things that you have done in your life. Sometimes some of you live already so well that you already have a natural good feeling about yourself. And if you have a naturally good feeling about yourself, just tap into that good feeling, right? And just go with the flow as a consequence. Sometimes you may have to remember specific things that you have done. Maybe you did something very kind to someone, an act of generosity, just an act of speech, an act of kindness, whatever it might be. Sometime when you felt good about yourself because you knew that you were acting with kindness towards someone else. Bring up that memory again. What did that feel like when you felt joy because you were kind to someone else? Go back to that, bring it out. And as you bring it out in this way, it starts to have an effect in your meditation, and your meditation starts to come together as a consequence. So this is how to kind of get the meditation started. Then, as the meditation starts in this way, as your mindfulness comes together, there comes a point when the breath kind of starts to appear. Up to now, you don't have to worry too much about the breath. The breath may be there, it may not be there, because the breath is kind of always around somewhere. But don't worry too much about it. Don't focus on it. Just leave it alone. And if it's there, it's fine. If it's not there, it's also fine. But then as you go through this process of bringing rise to joy, making the meditation happen, the breath comes into focus by itself. It becomes like clear, it becomes there, as if the rubbish and all the nonsense in the mind gets cleared away, and the breath kind of comes into view. And when the breath comes into view, that is where the mindfulness of breathing starts, and the process of meditation happens. So this is how you get to mindfulness of breathing, by relaxing, bringing up happiness and joy, allowing the mindfulness to become strong. Then the breath appears. Then you are doing mindfulness of breathing. And then the way to do that mindfulness of breathing is just to hang out with the breath. Just to stay with the breath, stay with the joy, allow the thing to develop gradually, stage by stage, according to the 16 stages of Anapanasati found in the Anapanasati Sutta. The whole process develops and develops. Goes by itself. Two things that you should always look out for to make sure you're heading in the right direction. One is the amount of joy and happiness you have on that path, and the other one is the tranquility you have. And as long as you are feeling tranquil, more and more at ease, more and more at peace, as long as you're feeling the degree of happiness and joy gradually going in the right direction, then you know you are on the right track. These are the two things you should look out for. If you do feel that the meditation is not going so well, if you do feel that your meditation is not going so well, sometimes you may have difficulties or whatever, then just relax a little bit. Come out, do something else, and then come back to the meditation later on. If you find your meditation to be outrightly problematic, and really terrifying, don't meditate at all. Just drink cups of tea all day, and then you'll be fine. It is true, there are actually some people who don't really enjoy the meditation at all, and if you find it really hard, don't push yourself too much. If you push yourself too much, it is not going to be nice. So please don't do that. Do very short meditations, do go for a bit of walks or whatever, don't push yourself too much. General idea is the meditation works when two things are increasing, gradually becoming more calm and gradually becoming more happy. These are the two signposts of meditation going in the right way there. Anyway, I think I'm going to stop there because I've been talking, and an hour and a half has pretty much gone by. So I think maybe that's a good place to come to an end. So now is the time for a break. We're going to have an evening session later on. And we'll see what we do. Maybe we do some meditation together. Maybe we have a bit of Q&A, or maybe we can start the suttas. We'll see what happens when we come back later on. So please have a nice break, have a cup of tea, whatever, and we'll see you back here at 7:30 this evening. Okay?